One last look at the Miami Dolphins and their showcase against the San Francisco 49ers at home for their scheduled season finale at Hard Rock Stadium. 49ers Dolphins, we're looking at this one last time with some predictions and injury updates here today on Locked On Dolphins.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami, welcome to another episode of Locked On Dolphins. It is your team every day here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Krabs, a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, host of Locked On Dolphins, co-host of Locked On NFL Scouting, author of Touchdown Miami on Substack, and the NFL Draft lead for the 33rd team. I want to give a special shout out and welcome to our everydayers because it is your team every day. We don't just say it, we live it. You're on the Locked On Network. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it is easy to get started. Let's get started looking at the Dolphins and the 49ers. Week 16, Dolphins at 6-8, mathematical elimination from postseason contention on the line. Who is going to show up to play the game? I think that's, you don't want a season to trend the way that it has for Miami. But I would much rather, in a year in which you're probably going to have to make some philosophical changes to how you go about trying to build a football team, I would like to have opportunities like this going into an offseason like the one that the Dolphins are going to have to see who's going to show up, who wants to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem, right? And you do have, courtesy of Mike McDaniel, who spoke to the media about 20 minutes ago. He spoke after practice today, which is unique for him. I think that probably just meetings went long, but usually Mike speaks before practice. It was originally scheduled for the live stream on YouTube for the Dolphins social media channel to go live before practice, and then it gets pushed back till 12:50 start time. And Mike speaks after practice, so he has a little bit more clarity as far as the injury and health availability of some of your players. It sounds like Jaylen, Waddle, and Eskridge are both going to be doubtful for this game. Neither one of them practiced all week long. That included Waddle. Mike McDaniel did allude to Jaylen Waddle being day-to-day at the beginning of the week. That never built enough traction and momentum for him to be a participant in any capacity in practice. So just assume no Jaylen Waddle because he's going to be doubtful when the injury report comes out, according to the press conference that Mike McDaniel just had. Grant Dubose is back with the team, doing well, but Mike McDaniel also said he does not expect to see Grant Dubose play football again this season as he tries to get himself right from a very scary injury suffered in Houston. So where's that leave you at wide receiver? It leaves you with Tyreek Hill, Malik Washington, River Craycraft, and that is it for wide receivers on the active roster. Do you elevate Anthony Schwartz? Anthony Schwartz is on IR. It's Eric Ezukama, it's Tyreek Black, and it's Isaiah McKenzie. I guess you'd probably see two of them in this game. No matter how 12 personnel or 21 personnel heavy the team chooses to go against San Francisco, my expectation is you'll probably see two out of the three. Based off of NFL resumes, Ezukama's been here the longest. He feels like the one that probably gets the Grant Dubose reps. And then Isaiah McKenzie's probably the backup for everybody else, would be my guess. And I know Isaiah McKenzie just got here, right? Like freshly signed to the practice squad this week and spent time in New York this season. Before that, it was Indianapolis. Before that, it was Buffalo. Before that, it was Denver. So not a great deal of exposure to this tree of offense. So that's ideally a player you probably don't want to play unless you absolutely need to, and you're willing to dumb down what your operations look like to accommodate a player who just got here this week. I guess maybe common logic would say the guy who hasn't been here just this week will dress, but They did it with Grant DuBose, and I know he was in Green Bay, so there was some lingo familiarity. Needless to say, expect a lot of Tyreek Hill. And I'm excited for the opportunity that River Craycraft has as a player who flashed a lot of chemistry in the preseason and in training camp and looked like the second best wide receiver on the team. And then he kind of fell off the wayside after a shoulder injury that cost him a lot of the year. And he's somebody who every opportunity he has to step on the field is important for him to continue to maintain his career, because he doesn't get the 3, 4, 5-year contract extensions. He's usually signing 1-year contracts somewhere. So for River Craycraft, I would expect that's a player that's going to show up highly motivated to play. Now, what kinds of plays are you physically capable of making at San Francisco? That's a different story altogether. And that's going to be part of the journey of this football game for the Dolphins. But Tyreek Hill, if you have Tyreek Hill, you have enough talent, regardless of how bad this season's been, to have winning opportunities in the passing game. And the Dolphins, if they're going to win this game, need Tyreek Hill to play like he's expecting to get targeted every time he runs around, which is not going to happen because there's going to be Devon Achane reps and there's going to be Jonnu Smith reps, and you'll sprinkle in 4 or 5 Malik Washington reps like he's gotten seemingly every game. And maybe River Craycraft gets 1 or 2. Of course, the cruel irony is you move on from Odell Beckham, this would have been the spot that he'd have had his most value as far as reps and opportunities. But I'm not necessarily losing sleep over moving on from Odell Beckham based off of just kind of what the experience was like when he was here. So that's where wide receiver stands. It's going to be a wily vet that's mastered the system to extend his NFL career, River Craycraft. It's an upstart rookie, Malik Washington. And it's the player that is one of the highest paid offensive skill players in the NFL. And I'm sorry, that at wide receiver, in addition to what Devon Achane can do in the passing game and what Jonnu Smith can do in the passing game, you have enough options to win this game, I think. Now, do I think you're going to score a lot of points? No. But how many points you ultimately may score may be dictated by the offensive line that are available and ready to go. And that's what we're getting into next here on this episode of Locked On Dolphins. Make sure that you stick with us. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash this holiday season. Run your game all season long with PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. You can make your holidays bigger and brighter with PrizePicks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. And as we said, you can now win up to 1,000 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Join now because this holiday season, PrizePicks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. Sign up today, get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers additional promotions throughout the week. Do not miss out. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's the PrizePicks app. Use code LOCKEDONNFL. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. It is time. College football playoff. It's back. With the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, starting tonight with Notre Dame and Indiana. The college football playoff is bringing you all of the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports' coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into the first matchup on Saturday, the SMU Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. The news at tackle was at least a little more optimistic than what the news was at wide receiver. Mike McDaniel disclosed that Teron Armstead and Kendall Lamb both were limited participants in practice on Friday, and that it was a, quote, positive experience on the field for practice. You take that and pair that with the fact that Kendall Lamb was limited yesterday. I think that bodes very well for Kendall Lamb and his potential return at right tackle to give the Dolphins a functional option to play the position at this stage of the season, because it was not a functional position for the Dolphins against the Texans. And that injury report for inactives on Sunday when it came out was a big gut punch, because you knew that it was going to be trouble, and sure enough, it was. But 2 limited opportunities for Kendall Lamb in practice. Mike McDaniel also saying Teron Armstead was a participant. There's some, at this stage, biding of time that needs to happen, and you just hope there's no negative setbacks or getting tight or anything like that between now and then. That was what Mike McDaniel said. At this stage, we had no issues at practice. Now it's between now and game time, and you see how both of those guys respond. And if they respond well, then you're good to go. Now, I think they do have an interesting decision to make with how Patrick Paul played. Are you willing to move Patrick Paul around? Would you want some of the power that he has in the run game that he's capable of, and the athleticism? Would you want that over Kendall Lamb if Teron Armstead can go? Or do you just simply say, hey, our running game is what our running game is right now, and because of that, we're going to take our 2 best pass protectors, which is Teron Armstead and Kendall Lamb, and we're going to play those guys at left and right tackle and come out and try to block the 49ers with Leonard Floyd and Nick Bosa with our best pass protection guys. I would not be surprised if that is ultimately the plan of attack for Miami, based on, Jaylen Waddle. You're probably not going to have Jaylen Waddle, so the spacing gets a little different. And if they're going to crowd Tyreek, then you need the guys to have an extra tick to get open. And because of that, you're probably looking at wanting to pass protect at a little bit higher level. What is interesting, and I say interesting, there's been a lot of breadcrumbs this week about the guard spot. And it's annoying that it had to build to a catastrophic offensive line performance like the one you got in Houston to potentially have a change. That's very aggravating, because I don't know how you don't look at the names that are written down on the depth chart as who's going to start at right tackle and who's starting at right guard and who's starting at left guard, and say, oh, and we have a 2nd-round rookie at left tackle? Yeah, it's only a must-win game in the AFC Conference. Let's just roll with it and see what happens. And that's what they did, and we saw what happened, and it was not pretty. But there's been a lot of breadcrumbs about a potential change on the interior. Of course, the Dolphins about a month ago activated Isaiah Wynn off of the PUP list. He's been on the active roster for about a month. And that was part of what I took exception to with Jackson Carman, because when Jackson Carman plays, Jackson Carman's on the practice squad. Should not be playing. He's played 12 snaps in 2023 and then played for you in this game in a must-win against Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. It was never going to be a successful opportunity. You did not put that player in a position to be successful either. But you needed a body. But here's where, it was an exception for me, was you needed a right tackle. Okay, well, Isaiah Wynn's played right tackle. Did he play right tackle well? No, but he's at least played the position before, and he has good tape in the NFL in certain spots. Liam Eichenberg's played right tackle before. Did he play right tackle good? No. But is his version of playing right tackle better than what we saw from Jackson Carman? Yeah, it would have been. I had Jackson Carman graded as a worse offensive line performance at right tackle than Liam put on at right guard. You also have so you had options for who to play at that spot. You could have put Isaiah Wynn at left tackle and put Patrick Paul at right tackle and solved the issue that way. You could have put Isaiah Wynn at right tackle. You could put Liam Eichenberg at right tackle. You had numerous other players on the active roster that were healthy and ready to go. Now, they didn't make that choice. The outcome is the outcome, and it is what it is. But what's interesting now is Liam played particularly bad. It was the second worst offensive performance I've graded all season for a Dolphins player. And there's a lot of breadcrumbs from guys on the beat and some whispers and murmurs that I've heard that you may be seeing a change that includes Liam Eichenberg no longer in the starting lineup. If you ask me right now to make the prediction, I would say Liam Eichenberg is not starting on Sunday, would be my prediction. And that would be presumably Isaiah Wynn. I would assume that becomes Rob Jones, and that this is, I've heard nothing on this front. You've heard some whispers that this might be happening, but I would assume that would mean Rob Jones would go to right guard and that Isaiah Wynn would play left guard, which is where he played last season. So you could theoretically have an offensive line of Tron Armstead, Isaiah Wynn, Aaron Brewer, Rob Jones, Kendall Lamb against San Francisco. You ran out a lot worse groups than that. And for this stage of the game, if you get everybody back and everybody can go, and assuming Tron Armstead doesn't get laid up as the game unfolds and you put Patrick Paul back in, I think that's a line that gives you a pretty darn decent chance to win when you pair together that how the Dolphins are playing offensively, the style of play in which they've embraced to try to survive this season amidst the problems that they've made for themselves with injuries and personnel commitments that they've made. And then also San Francisco, this is a group that has Drake Jackson on the PUP. Javon Hargrave is on injured reserve. Kevin Givens is on injured reserve. So they're a team up front that has Malik Collins, Kalia Davis, Jordan Elliott, and Khalil Davis. And then Evan Anderson. That's the guys playing on the interior for the San Francisco 49ers. It's not the murderer's row that this team has fielded before. Now, they still have absolute stone cold killers at linebacker between Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, and it sounds like Greenlaw is going to go. He came back from Achilles, had a knee discomfort, left the game at halftime last week or close to halftime. Sounds like he's going to go. They've got some ferocious strikers in the middle of the field between Talanoa Hufanga and Malik Mustafa and Jair Brown from Penn State the year before. Those are a couple of mid-round picks at safety. So the middle of the field is still a tough egg to crack for you. There's a lot of strikers and speed in that area of the field. But blocking Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott and Kalia Davis, if you told me that it was Isaiah Wynn stepping in for Liam Eichenberg and that you had your tackles, so you felt a little bit better about leaving either one of those guys on islands more frequently so you could still threaten with 5 eligibles out in the pass patterns, I think that you have a decent chance to at least be able to somewhat reasonably move the football against San Francisco, which brings us to predictions. And that's what I'm going to give you next here on this episode of Locked On Dolphins, our final one before the Dolphins host the 49ers at 4:25 on Sunday. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. Spend it wisely and improve yourself. History, economics, the great works of literature. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, The Great American Story, Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and much more. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and you can tune in wherever. Plus, you could go deeper with readings, quizzes, and discussions, or you can just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. So I've already given you my first prediction, is that you do not just have a return of at least one of your veteran offensive tackles that both missed against Houston. You will have Isaiah Wynn. I am predicting Isaiah Wynn will be in the starting lineup. There's too much smoke. There's too many whispers. There's too much buzz. And I'm not big like insider Kyle. I'm hearing this. But when it's as prevalent as it is throughout the beat, and then you find out some of the buzz that are people that are familiar with the team or familiar with players on the team or familiar with representation that represents players. Like there's endless sources of information. If you've been in this industry a decade, and you meet enough people, right? Like you hear, hey, did you hear this? Hey, did you hear that? Oh, it's heard they might be leaning this. And that's where I'm at with Isaiah Wynn. So I think he will play and start for the Dolphins on their offensive line. I will not predict that solves all of your issues running the football because Isaiah Wynn at guard, you feel like he's got good athleticism if he's healthy, and he's had an extra ramp up in addition to his 3-week activation period. But they are just a fundamentally flawed football team, as we know. And the way that they have found opportunities to move the ball with consistency is the quick passing game and leaning on the screen game. I think that's what you'll continue to see them do. Now, San Francisco is a stingy pass defense. They have not given up 200 yards passing to an opposing team since Dallas in week 8. And that was a 30-24 win for the 49ers. They outgained Dallas by almost 200 yards of offense. And then it was Seattle in week 6 on a Thursday in Seattle. Seattle got 306 in a game that the 49ers won by 12 points. And then it was week 2 against Minnesota, where Sam Darnold and company got 257. That is it. So bold prediction time. Mathematically speaking, very unlikely thing to happen, but I think it will. The Dolphins will be the 4th team this season to pass for 200 yards of offense against San Francisco. Now, the 49ers are coming into this game with 10 turnovers offensively in their last 6 games. I think the Dolphins will get at least 1. The bold prediction in me wants to say 2. But the Dolphins have only forced 1 turnover defensively in the last 3 games. And what's really frustrating about that is the game against Houston. CJ Stroud, the turnover that you get is a snap that CJ is not ready for and gets punted out past the line of scrimmage, and Jordan Brooks picks it up. And you're one wide receiver getting blocked away from returning it back for a touchdown. On the opening possession of the game, where Houston scored their first points, I should say, the opening scoring possession of the game, they fumbled the ball on the perimeter, and you're about 6 inches away from Javon Holland, probably picking it up and running it back for a touchdown. You had a pass that kind of gets ski-balled up in the air, and nobody gets underneath of it. So, like, you're right here. And then you go back through the Jets games, or the Jet game. Javon Holland has one that hits him in the stomach, and we don't catch it. We have 2 balls that are dropped on the perimeter that get volleyball set up into the air, and Kendall Fuller can't bring one down along the sideline. And it's right there. Against the Packers, Jalen Ramsey on a pressure, gets his hands up as a pressure player, blitzing off the right side, and pops it straight up in the air. You don't make the play. Against Arizona, Jordan Poyer drops a pick. You had no turnovers in that game. 1 probably wins you the football game. The Bills' game-winning 61-yard field goal. Earlier in that possession, there's a ball at the line of scrimmage that's popped straight up in the air that Deshaun Hand can't find and get underneath. You can go all the way down the list. All of these games. And of all the games I mentioned, the only one that the Dolphins won was against the Jets in overtime 2 weeks ago. 1-score loss to Houston. 2-score loss to Green Bay that could have been, and the almost backwards pass that Saron Neal runs back. I didn't even mention that one against Green Bay. Buffalo, you lost by 2 points. Arizona, you lost by 1 point. And I'm not saying that the team doesn't have significant issues that need to be addressed and we need to be honest about. But I am saying, like, geez Louise, football gods, can you throw us a freaking bone? Can we get a couple bounces of the ball? And if we ever would, could we get it at home against San Francisco? San Francisco coming into this game, by the way, sounds like Isaac Guerrero also not going to be available to play. So that makes Jordan Mason, Isaac Guerrero, Christian McCaffrey. Those are the only 3 backs on the roster with more than 14 carries. None of them will dress for this game, it sounds like. And obviously, Brandon Ayuk is out. So you have George Kittle is the big riddle for you to solve. He leads the team in receiving yards. Juwan Jennings, big-time physical player. I would expect you'll get some Jalen Ramsey matchup opportunities there. And then Deebo Samuel being the other player. But, I mean, Deebo, not the player he was, I would say. So I think there's some good matchup opportunities. So you can put me – I'll do it. I'll do 2 turnovers. 2 turnovers, 200-plus passing yards. Take the game total under. Last I saw on FanDuel, it was 44.5. We might as well get the updated number here. Dolphins, 49ers. Spread still Miami minus 1.5. Game total is still over under 44.5. Take the under. Starting lineup change on the interior offensive line. Dolphins win. And not a comfortable win, like 17-13 or something like that. But put me down for Dolphins though. That's going to do it for us here on Locked On Dolphins. It is your team every day. Appreciate you guys checking out the show. Keep it locked in right here on Locked On Dolphins. And check out all of your favorite teams. All of your favorite sports teams have shows here on Locked On Network. We don't just say it. We live it. But that's it for me. And we will be back in the aftermath of 49ers Dolphins Sunday evening for a post-game show. We hope to see you then.